Rollerball pens are pens which use ballpoint writing mechanisms with water-based liquid or gelled ink, as opposed to the oil-based viscous inks found in ballpoint pens. These less viscous inks, which tend to saturate more deeply and more widely into paper than other types of ink, give rollerball pens their distinctive writing qualities. The writing point is a tiny ball, usually 0.5 or 0.7 mm in diameter, that transfers the ink from the reservoir onto the paper as the pen moves. Advantages: rollerball pens were introduced in 1963 by the Japanese company Oto. There are two main types of rollerball pens, liquid ink pens and gel ink pens. The liquid ink type uses an ink and ink supply system similar to a fountain pen, and they are designed to combine the convenience of a ballpoint pen with the smooth wet ink effect of a fountain pen. Gel inks usually contain pigments, while liquid inks are limited to dyestuffs, as pigments will sink down in liquid ink. The thickness and suspending power of gels allows the use of pigments in gelled ink, which yields a greater variety of brighter colors than is possible in liquid ink. Gels also allow for the use of heavier pigments with metallic or glitter effects, or opaque pastel pigments that can be seen on dark surfaces. Liquid ink rollerball pens flow extremely consistently and skip less than gel ink pens do. The lower viscosity of liquid ink increases the likelihood of consistent inking of the ball, whereas the higher viscosity of gel ink produces skipping, that is, occasional gaps in lines or letters. In comparison to ballpoint pens, less pressure needs to be applied to the pen to have it write cleanly. This permits holding the pen with less stress on the hand, saving energy and improving comfort. This can also translate to quicker writing speeds. This is especially true of liquid ink pens. The inks usually have a greater range of colors due to the wider choice of suitable water-soluble dyes and/or to the use of pigments. They tend to write more clearly than ballpoint pens do. Disadvantages: there are a number of disadvantages inherent to rollerball pens. Water-based rollerball ink is more likely to smudge than a ballpoint pen's oil-based ink because water-based ink dries more slowly than its counterpart. Also, if one writes in a notebook, closing it before the ink dries can stain the opposite page. Gel ink dries much more rapidly than liquid ink, making it much more, but not completely, resistant to smudging. This can also prove a problem for left-handed writers. Rollerball pens with liquid ink are more likely to bleed through the paper. Liquid ink is more readily absorbed into the paper due to its lower viscosity. This viscosity also causes problems when leaving the tip on the paper. The bleed-through effect is greatly increased as the ink is continually absorbed into the paper, creating a blotch. This does not affect gel ink rollerball pens as much. This is one way through which the thickness of gel ink gives it an advantage, in that it isn't as prone to being absorbed. Though the bleed-through effect of a gel ink rollerball is greater than that of a ballpoint, it is usually not too significant. Rollerball pens generally run out of ink more quickly than ballpoints because rollerballs use a greater amount of ink while writing. This is especially true of liquid ink rollerballs, due to gel ink having a low absorption rate as a result of its thickness. Neither last as long as a ballpoint. Uncapped rollerball pens are more likely to leak ink when, for example, placed into a shirt pocket, but most pens include caps or other mechanisms to prevent this from happening. A rollerball tip is more likely to clog and jam when writing over correction fluid that has not yet completely dried. This often renders the ink cartridge useless. A liquid ink rollerball is likely to leak during flight on an airplane with a pressurized cabin, although variations that are leak-proof are created to be airplane-safe. Standards: the International Organization for Standardization has published standards for rollerball pens, ISO 14145-1, 1998, rollerball pens and refills Euro Part 1, General Use, ISO 14145-2, 1998, rollerball pens and refills Euro Part 2, Documentary Use. To comply to the ISO 14145-2 1998 documentary use standard, the following has to be established by an ISO IEC 17025 accredited laboratory: erasure resistance, the surface of the Testing paper shall show clear evidence of damage before the line is rendered invisible when tested. Ethanol resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with a 50% aqueous ethanol solution. Hydrochloric acid resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with a 10% aqueous hydrochloric acid solution. Ammonium hydroxide resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with a 10% aqueous ammonium hydroxide acid solution. Bleaching resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with an aqueous 3% freshly made solution of chloram T. Water resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with water. Light resistance, the line shall remain visible when tested with light. Most rollerball refills do not comply to the ISO 14145-2 1998 standard, meaning they are not approved for documentary use. Uses. Former MI6 agent Richard Tomlinson alleges that pentel rolling writer rollerball pens were extensively used by SIS agents to produce secret writing while on missions. The O2 model CB10F ceramic rollerball pen was used at the 1990 Economic Summit of Industrialized Nations. See also, gel pen, list of pen types, brands and companies. References. External links. Writing Instrument Manufacturers Association, OHTO Japan, manufacturer of the first rollerball.